Hello everyone, I am Akanksha. Welcome to a brand new episode of Flashback Friday, Season 2, presented by Art with Abir. Let me start with a little quiz. What was art's role in India's struggle of independence? How did a tiny 10-inch watercolor of a woman in saffron sari help unite people under one idea of India? On one side, there were speeches, protests, and slogans on the streets. On the other, there was a small painting of Bharat Mata, Mother India becoming a symbol for a nation that was still being born. And today we'll see how art has spoken to Indian nationalism from the freedom movement to all the way to our present. What does a nation look like before it even appears on a map? In 1905, Abhindranath Tagore painted one possible answer: a young woman in a saffron sari, calm, still, serene, and divine. She has 4 arms. In them, she holds a book, a bunch of grain, a white cloth, and prayer beads. Knowledge, food, clothing, faith. He paints this at the height of the Swadeshi movement, when people were protesting the partition of Bengal and trying to imagine India in their own terms. But notice what he leaves out: no map, no soldiers, no guns. Instead, he turns India into a mother figure. Not loud, not violent, soft, spiritual, asking for care and sacrifice through love, not fear. Abhindranath did not follow the shiny, realistic style taught in British art schools. He looked to Mughal and Rajput miniatures and to Japanese wash techniques, with soft colors and flowing lines. Out of this came what we call the Bengal School of Art. It was more than a style, it was an attempt to change the taste itself, to teach people to see beauty in Indian ways of painting, not just European ones. If Bharat Mata is the face of the nation, then who gives it a body? At Santi Niketan around Rabindranath Tagore, artists offer another answer: not goddesses, not symbols, only ordinary people. Nandlal Bose and Binod Bihari Mukherjee took the idea of the nation into fields, villages, lanes. They painted processions, harvests, workers, festivals, scenes where nation is made up of real lives, not just slogans. Jamini Roy went closer to folk art. He borrowed Patachitra and village paintings, flat figures, bold outlines, earth colors, simple on the surface but very deliberate. He took a local popular style and turned it into something modern and more powerful. Here, nationalism is not about flags. It's about who gets seen as part of the nation at all. Peasants, craft people, folk traditions, women all step into the frame. Indian modern art starts to grow from roots that had been pushed aside under colonial rule. Independence arrives, the flash goes up, but for many artists, a new question appears. Is freedom only freedom from the British, or also freedom from official, state-approved ideas of the nation? A young group in Bombay decided both. Soon after independence, the progressive artists group formed in Bombay with F.N. Souza, S.H. Raza, and M.S. Hussain at its center. They looked at the expressionism, cubism, abstraction, all these so-called Western modern style, and mixed them with Indian myths, cities, and memories. Hussein's canvases burned with horses, filled posters, goddesses, and street scenes. The work felt rooted in India, but it was not limited by it. It spoke to a new, messy, fast-changing country that could not be held in one neat image like Bharat Mata. Many modernists of this time did not try to make the nation look pretty. They stared straight at its wounds. Tide Mehta painted failing, broken figures. Raza turned landscapes and Bindu, the dot, into intense, vibrating fields of color and energy. Satish Gujral's Partition series showed the pain of 1947. Violence, loss, forced movements in harsh, unforgettable forms. So the question slowly changed. From how do we create a national image to how do we live with what the nation has done to us? Can you be an Indian artist and still refuse to be boxed in by the nation? Many mid-20th century artists answered yes. They were shaped by India, but they did not want to be trapped inside a narrow idea of Indian art. Amrita Shergill moved between Europe and India. She used lessons from European modern art, bold colors, strong structure, to paint rural India women with deep emotion and inner life. Her work is rooted in India, but also clearly in conversation with the wider world. Nasreen Mohammadi went even further away from recognizable images. Lines, grids, quite precise marks. Her abstract drawings and paintings seems to step outside labels like nation or identity. Yet they grow out of the same time, a newly independent country trying to find order in rapid change. By the late 20th century, the world-facing tendency in Indian art becomes more openly political. Nalini Malani turns to video, installation and drawing to talk about partition, communal riots and rising aggressive nationalism. Her works often center refugees, women and those pushed to the edges. In her immersive installations and shadow plays, images flows across walls and ceilings. They refuse neat frames and borders. It feels like memory itself, scattered, moving, impossible to fence it. Today, when we say nationalism, we might not first think of a flag. We might think of a border, a checkpoint, a passport refused, a microphone taken away. Contemporary artists like Shilpa Gupta work directly with these materials. Fences, microphones, passport booths, surveillance devices. Her installations often engage with India's borders and with people whose lives are ruled by visas, checkpoints, and lines on a map. At the same time, she links these stories to global questions of migration, policing, and fear. So we see that this is not just our problem, but a worldwide pattern. Gupta's work shows how today's nationalism is tangled up with technology and security. Art, in her hands, turns these hard, cold systems back into the question we cannot ignore. So again, we turn to the same question: who belongs, who is heard, whose stories are allowed to cross borders, and whose are stopped. Artists like Subodh Gupta, Bharti Kher, Jitesh Kalat, and Amar Kanwar move between local histories and international art spaces. They speak of state violence, food insecurity, environmental crisis, and protest. Their works can be read both inside India and outside it. Here, the artist is not just simple representative of the nation. They are a witness, sometimes a critic. They remind us that any love for the nation must also face questions of justice and ethics. So what does nationalism in art look like today? A mother, a wound, a border. From Abanindranath Tagore's gentle Bharat Mata during the anti-colonial struggle to Nalini Malani's and Shilpa Gupta's work on refugees, memories and borders, every generation of artists has asked, what is the thing we call the nation? Who gets to define it? Who gets left out? Early modern artists tried to paint the nation into being. Post-independence artists showed its cracks, its conflicts, its broken promises. Many contemporary artists move beyond the nation, yet still hold it responsible for the lives it shapes and sometimes shatters. As debates around sovereignty, war, and borders grow sharper today, these artworks remind us nationalism is not only a law or a policy, it's also a feeling, a story, an image, and artists have always been there, shaping that story, complicating it, and sometimes even taking it apart. If you'd like us to explore how other countries have painted their nationalism, from Soviet posters to American pop, tell us in the comments. This was Flashback Friday with Art with Habib. See you next week, where another artwork from the past might just help you understand your present.